Hello there, Dr. Bill Crawford here, psychologist, speaker, author of 8 books, host of 2 PBS specials. Here again to bring you another tip on how to help you create the life you want. Specifically, how to use my life from the top of the mind philosophy to bring more clarity, confidence, creativity into everything you do. Today I want to talk to you about parenting, being a parent myself with my wife Georgia, raising Christopher and Nicholas. That's a big deal, and to me it has a lot to do with being able to raise kids in a way that helps them be successful and, where we can feel good about ourselves as parents. And there is a book out there by Brene Brown. I'm a big fan of hers, and it's called Daring Greatly. And in the last part of that book, she speaks to the concept of not needing to be a perfect parent, but wanting to be able to be the kind of person we want our kids to grow up to be. In my book, How to Get Kids to Do What You Want, even though it sounds like kind of getting them to, brush their teeth or go to bed, it's really about how do we help them be the person that we want them to be. And it has to do with us kind of modeling that to some degree. Dr. Brown goes a little bit deeper, however, because she talks about the importance of giving them that sense of self-worth. And what she's done in her last chapter on what she calls wholehearted parenting is speak to that. Normally what I do is I do a video and then I create kind of a comment, an essay. And I put that in the description of the YouTube, and sometimes I'll post it and I'll put it on my website. This particular time, what I did is I did the description first, or did the comment first, because I wanted to use some of her thoughts in the video. But hey, I really just like how this came out, and I'm not sure I could do it as well if I just tried to do it off the cuff. So I'm going to read this. I hope that's okay with you, because I think it gives you my best thoughts. And I always want to make sure I'm giving you my best thoughts. I am putting this in the description down below. So if you want to see it, you can find it. So here's the quote that I'm sending out to those 6,000 folks on my quote list. By the way, if you want to be on my list, where each week I send you one of my favorite quotes, along with 2 or 3 paragraphs about how to apply that quote to life, as well as the most recent link to the most recent video, all you got to do is go to the website, billcrawfordphd.com, hit the subscribe button. It's free. Just put your name and address in there. We won't sell it to anybody. And each week you will get one of my favorite quotes, along with 2 or 3 paragraphs about how to apply the quote to life. So this is a quote that I've adapted from Brene Brown's book, Daring Greatly, in her chapter on wholehearted parenting. She says, in terms of teaching our kids to be successful in this never enough world, I think that's important, because in many ways we're often living in a world where people don't feel they're enough. Certainly kids are striving to be enough, get those good grades, or be accepted into a certain school, or being chosen by a certain person. And that fear of not being enough comes in a lot. She said the question in this never enough world isn't, are we parenting the right way? It's, are we being the adult that we want our children to grow up to be? And here's what I wrote. Because we love our kids and we want them to be successful, we all want to know how to be great parents. What Dr. Brown's research has shown, however, is that rather than trying to be the perfect parent, I had a professor of mine say, Bill, you never want to be the perfect parent. It doesn't give your kids anything to be better than. So she says, rather than trying to be the perfect parent, we should be asking a question, are we being the person we want our kids to become? And are we giving our kids a foundation of self-worth and confidence that will allow them to deal with success and the inevitable failures that come with being an adult? I talk about here, many of you know I'm a big fan of Brene Brown. I've admired her books and her TED Talks on vulnerability and shame, especially as those concepts apply to leadership, because I do a lot of work with leaders. In her book, Daring Greatly, she does an excellent job of speaking to the concept of effective parenting. She calls it wholehearted parenting, and how important this is, especially given that we live in a world today of this never enough culture, so that it's so prevalent. She says, one of the things I admire about, this is what I say, one of the things I admire about her research is when she speaks to how our experience as kids influences our ability to be successful as adults. So she writes, from the very beginning of my research, I've always paid attention to how research participants talked about being parented and parenting. The bottom line is, what we learn about ourselves and how we learn to engage the world as children sets a course that will either require us to spend a significant amount of time of our life fighting to regain our self-worth, or will give us hope and courage and the strength and resilience in our journey. I say, unfortunately, many parents focus more on correcting their perceived weaknesses and failures of their kids than their children's self-worth. This is understandable because we don't want them to make mistakes. This can be a problem, however, because kids tend to interpret being corrected, especially when shame is part of the experience. Even though we don't mean to shame them, they experience shame sometimes. They interpret that as information about their character or lack of character, or lack of worthiness, which sets up a constant struggle to be enough in the eyes of their parents, or exacerbates the fear that they will never be enough no matter what they do. Now, to be clear, this isn't about always praising our children and overlooking their mistakes. We don't want to be the helicopter parent or the lawnmower parent. That's the parent that prepares the path for the child rather than preparing the child for the path. Instead, this is about engaging them in a way where they sense our confidence in them and our confidence in their ability to be successful. This means actively bringing out their best versus criticizing their worst. For those of you who follow my Life from the Top of the Mind, you know this philosophy also means connecting with the part of them, specifically the part of their brain, where the qualities of hope, resilience, persistence, and self-worth reside. In order to do this, we need to be coming from the clear, confident, creative part of who we are versus being frustrated or annoyed, so that they see us as engaging the world in a way that we would like them to emulate, and in a way where their self-worth is reflected in our eyes. In her chapter on Wholehearted Parenting, Dr. Brown also speaks to the importance of belonging, or feeling like you belong. This is especially meaningful to kids, especially between the age of like 12 and 20, because this is where the time of their life how they're perceived by their peers is so important. Therefore, in her research, Dr. Brown went to the experts, a group of 8th graders, where she asked them, what's the difference between belonging and fitting in? She said she was floored by their answers, as was I. So here's what the 8th grader says. Belonging is being somewhere that you want to be and they want you. Fitting in is being somewhere where you want to be and they don't really care one way or the other. Belonging is being accepted for you. Fitting in is being accepted for being like everybody else. If I get to be me, I belong. If I have to be you, that's all about fitting in. Therefore, if we want our kids to look for a sense of belonging versus feeling the need to fit in, if we want them to strive toward creating the life they want and with confidence versus fighting to reclaim their self-worth, and if we want them to consistently access the best of who they are versus becoming trapped in their worried, fear-based, shame-based lower brain, then we must show them what this looks like. This means being the adult we want them to be, and engaging them in a way where they see their self-worth reflected not only in our behavior, but in our eyes. Throughout their childhood, our kids will be looking to us to see if they are worthy of belonging and worthy of being valued by others. The greatest gift we can give them is not needing to be a perfect parent, but engaging them in such a way where our love for them and their worthiness is never in question. Now, is this easier said than done? Absolutely. And remember, it's not about being perfect. When we make a mistake as a parent, when we say something to them that they have some of that kind of shame or critical component just underneath the surface, and we see them kind of react in a way where they feel, less than worthy, we can go, okay, I tell you what, I think that was coming from my lower brain. If I were to say that again in a way that spoke to my love for you and my confidence in you, then I would say it this way. I was doing a workshop for a group of parents and teenagers. And I said, hey, parents, did you know that whenever we give our kids advice, they hear that as we don't have confidence in them? And every teenager's head in the room was going, yeah. Now, we don't mean that. We're trying to be helpful. We're trying to give them information. But when we tell them something that they think they either already know or should know, or comes across as we know and they don't, that sounds like we don't have confidence in them. And here's the deal. If kids think that we don't have confidence in them, they go, well, if my parents don't have confidence in me, how can I have confidence in myself? Who will? So that's why this engaging them, where we're bringing out their best versus criticizing their worst, is so helpful. This means we need to be coming from the clear, confident, creative, compassionate part of who we are. Because when we let that frustration, stress, annoyance, anger, resentment, anxiety color how we engage with our kids, they hear that as there's something wrong with them and they're not enough. And that sets them up to be in a kind of a not enough world in a way that exacerbates that problem. So hopefully this is helpful. If you like this video, please hit the like button. You know how everybody loves it when you like it. Share it with your friends if you feel it's valuable. And if you want me to help you become the parent you want to be, then all you got to do is go to my website, Ph.D.com, hit the contact button, let me know what you're interested in. I love to come and do parenting seminars, by the way, where I show you how to engage your kids in a way where they hear what you want them to hear, where they do the things you want them to do, but most importantly, be the people you want them to become. So until next time, here's to you, bringing more clarity, confidence, creativity into everything you do. And I look forward to seeing you in the future.